Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome founder and CEO Vacasa, Eric Breon, in discussion with Skift travel tech editor Sean O'Neill.
Well, I can't believe it was 2 years ago that we met here last. Thank you so much. Skift's really grateful for you coming back, Eric.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
It's been a busy 2 years for you, but surprisingly, there may still be people in the audience who don't know what space Vacasa plays in. So could you fill them in, please?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know us, at Vacasa, we're full service for vacation rentals. We do every aspect of it. So a ton of focus on peer-to-peer for the vacation rental space because companies like Airbnb were able to grow incredibly fast. But at Vacasa, we take care of all the details for both the homeowner and the guest. And we believe long-term that's what both owners and guests are looking for.
Cool. And so, to be clear, you hold the keys of all the properties you rent?
All of our homes, for every home we manage, we hold the keys. We do everything from taking the photos, staging the home, on through doing the cleans, the maintenance, taking care of the guests, the customer service, really the full picture.
Awesome. So in July, Vacasa bought Wyndham Vacation Rentals for about $162 million. Why was that a big deal?
Yeah, so it's something we were interested in for a long time. So Wyndham was the market leader in the space. So a story about that. So back I met Mary Lynn Clark, who president of Wyndham Vacation Rentals at a conference about 3 years ago. And we had about 3,000 properties at the time. And I went up, introduced myself, and said I'd like to buy her company. And she was like, "You'd like us to buy your company?" And I'm like, "No, I'd like to buy your company." And she's like, "Okay." And then she walked away. So now 3 years later, we finally have a signed deal. So what we're really excited about here is the inventory and the people. So when you look at Wyndham, they've developed, they have incredible people with like 20, 30 years of tenure in the space, and some of the nicest homes out there, just for, great vacation rentals in great markets. What they don't have is a tech platform to bring it all together, and that's something we've already invested in. So it really just fits perfectly into what we're already doing.
Sweet. So just to underline the point that you were making there, so largest vacation rental property management company in the US by revenue and inventory, and you also have properties around the world, and how many countries?
Yeah, we're in 18 different countries now. We were a little opportunistic early on, so maybe we shouldn't be in South Africa yet, but we are. But in the short term, we're really excited about places like Mexico and the Caribbean. There's just tremendous appeal, especially on the homeowner side, for what we bring. Like, it's one thing if you live here and you buy a house in Vermont, you could think about managing it yourself. But imagine you just flew down to Costa Rica and bought an oceanfront house. Like, who do you leave those keys with when you get back on that flight? The trusted global brand means everything there.
That's cool. So we heard earlier from Skift Research, they provided some market sizing, talking about the short-term rental market. What percentage of your market share do you have in your addressable market?
Yeah, and our addressable market is pretty similar to that market. So we only manage homes that are full-time vacation rentals. But on a unit count, we might only have 25% the addressable market of an Airbnb. Okay. But in terms of revenue, it's more like 95%, because the type of homes we manage, those drive all the revenue for those businesses. So domestically, off that market, we have about 3.3% market share in the US, or about 1% globally.
Okay, 3.3% in the US.
Yeah.
So in every deal, there's someone buying, someone selling. Wyndham clearly wants to offload this. So what do you know that they don't know?
Yeah, well, we've invested in the tech platform. So I would say for them to bring that, to build what we built over the past 10 years, it would have been a massive investment. Okay. And I think they understood that. And so I think that's why they were ready to sell.
So what's one of the things that you guys bring on the tech? You've talked about yield management before, for example.
Yeah, there's two major sides to what we do on the tech front. The first is all about making more money for our homeowners. So we have, by far, the best yield management in the space. We have great distribution. We distribute on our own site, plus through partners like Airbnb, VRBO, and Booking. And our yield, so drive way more for our homeowners than anyone else can. But then we combine that with technology to really make things easier for operations. Things like on our housekeeping, it's kind of like everybody else in our space. It's like they're using a taxi dispatch service for dispatching housekeeping. It makes no sense. It's not based off the data. It takes a lot of work, and then it's just, hey, you go here, you go here. It's either biased or just random. Whereas for us, we're more like Uber in how we dispatch our workers. It's based on algorithms that look at how efficient are they, the importance of this clean, where else they are. And so things like that really help us build our efficiency across our scale.
Okay. Well, a few points of percentage in your market share. And so in this audience, I see a lot of people, we have supply people, experts like Marriott's and like Kors of the world. We have demand people like the Expedias and Verbos and Booking.coms of the world. And then we have private equity people who, they're good at taking a startup and scaling it up. So which of those three people sort of scare you the most about who might come in and be a competitor for you?
I feel pretty good there. So I think when you look at what we're doing, so post the Wyndham acquisition, we'll have over 6,000 employees for our 3.3% market share. And we still only cover about 50% of the map in the US. We want to get that up to 100%, but it's a long tail, so we're working hard at that. So when you think about somebody entering what we do at scale, you're talking tens of thousands of employees. And so trying to go from zero to nothing, building out all the tech we have and building out that workforce, I think that's a pretty formidable challenge.
Of the three, would you say that the hospitality companies are the best positioned for the opportunity because they have all this experience of doing operations for years?
I wouldn't say so. I think it's a very different game they play. I think what Marriott's doing on the reward front makes a lot of sense, but it's really more a reward play. I think when it comes to actually doing what we do, it's very different than hotels. Hotels, they're good at flags. They're good at centralized operations with a GM and a laundry center and on-site maintenance and on-site staffing. Trying to do what we do, where you manage hundreds of homes spread across an entire city, it's a totally different challenge, and it's not the same about the brand. It's more very down to the brand for that specific unit.
Okay. So you've raised about $200 million so far. When you look at sort of opportunities, you've said that you've sort of done a partner. You can't have a travel conference without talking about Google, and you did a deal sort of earlier this month about Google. So what was that about?
Yeah, so we now have a direct API for feeding our inventory to Google. So if you're familiar with the hotel product, the Hotel Finder, they now have a similar product for vacation rentals. So it's still very early stage, but we have great distribution on it in the markets where we have. So we're pretty excited about the future for that.
So implicit in that, I guess, would be branding is very important for you. How important is it for you getting Vacasa to be a household name?
So we're much more focused on for the homeowners. So we have exclusivity on every home we manage. Supply is easy for us. I mean, demand is easy for us. Supply is the hard part. For demand, there's plenty of people looking to go to all the markets we're in all the time. We have no trouble filling our homes. We do an exceptional job of that at a very low cost. For us, we're very focused on the supply. How do we win over those homeowners? Because that's just a massive change. Booking a house for this weekend, people are searching for that right now, but thinking, hey, this home we've never rented before, or this home that another management company's had for the past 7 years, those are big changes. So that's really the sole constraint on our growth.
Okay, so if the supply side is more challenging, when we were here 2 years ago, we talked about you do a lot of M&A using that $200 million. But you said that it was sort of about half organic, then half through M&A. What are you at now?
Yeah, so until we messed things up by Wyndham, we were running at 70% organic, 30% M&A. Of course, with the acquisition of Wyndham, with their 9,000 units, Wyndham Vacation Rentals, they wouldn't like it if I said the whole Wyndham. It's clearly just Vacation Rentals. My press person's she's happy I clarified. Yeah, Wyndham Vacation Rentals, just to clarify, was only 160.
So why do the M&A at all if you have such good organic numbers? Is it because you have trouble understanding the demand in certain markets?
Not at all. We have great demand data. It really comes down to, first, it's about market entry. So when we're entering a new market, trying to go from 0 to 30, which is really how many homes we need to start getting efficiencies, that's hard, especially in a long-tail market that maybe only has 100 homes. If we need to get 30% market share just for break even in that market, that could take us 3 years to do. Whereas if we go in and we buy, the leading company in that market, we hit the ground running. The other side is just the incremental nature of it. Even if somebody's running the worst vacation rental management company in the world, probably only 10% of those people are going to come over to Vacasa any given year. It's a big change. So if we buy that company, we pay for it long before they would have come over anyway. So just very, very sticky customers.
The labor front, one thing that's different, a lot of the startups that got mentioned in the presentation earlier, Skift research, tend to be in urban markets, and you have sort of a dense labor pool there. And we were talking about in coastal areas, mountains, resorts. Is finding labor a headwind, or?
It's a challenge, but it's a challenge we've adapted. It's a core competency, I think, is how do we scale up? Because you are talking thin markets with not a lot of people there, with massive seasonality. So again, it goes back to one of those things where, no single item's rocket science, but figuring out how to scale up a few thousand housekeepers in the middle of nowhere just prior to peak, is definitely a skill we've learned.
Okay. In July, you hired a new chief financial officer who had previous experience helping an online retailer get to an IPO and has some previous experience with Hilton. That looks a little bit like you might be having the idea of an IPO on the table. Are you going to IPO? Or?
We're definitely at the point where I shouldn't be pseudo CFO anymore. So we were a bootstrap company for the first 6 years. When we first took our outside funding, we still had cash-based accounting.
Wow.
So we were a little special on some fronts. There was a lot we were doing right, but yeah, it was the right time to really bring that level of talent to the company.
Okay. So we heard earlier today from the CEO of Mobility Mojo, Stephen Kleski. He had a very impassioned story about the importance of accessibility as part of what travel's responsibility is to the world. What do you see as the strengths and challenges in accessibility when it comes to alternative accommodation?
Yeah. So for homes, well, first I'm going to pick on him for that because we aren't alternative accommodations. Okay. Homes are accommodations. Hotels are alternative accommodations. I don't know where along the way we got this backwards.
We are accommodations. Here first, folks.
So, yeah. So in accommodations, part of the problem is a lot of these accommodations they aren't built with this use in mind. Okay. So there's two things that I think are really exciting on that front, though. One is we are getting increasingly excited about purpose-built. How can we build inventory specifically for our travelers? Because individually owned makes a lot of sense. People want that 3-bedroom. They want it on the beach. But it can potentially be a different product than somebody who's just looking to live there might be interested in. And when you're doing purpose-built, that's something you can build for from the start. The other side is the vast majority of vacation rentals, they're pre-existing homes. And so we need to update those to help make more of them accessible. We do have a design program at Vacasa where we help people make improvements, and that's one of our new focuses on that team is how can we make homes accessible? It's definitely a gap we need to fill.
So people make improvements is the name.
Yeah, and when you look at the multi-generational nature of travel in vacation homes, there's really strong business reasons to do it as well.
Okay. One more question. So we're going to hear tomorrow at the Skift Global Forum from Expedia Group CEO Mark Okerstrom. And Expedia Group bought 2 companies in the past year that sort of play in the space of helping multifamily residential communities sort of introduce accommodation that is short-term into the mix. So what do you see as the opportunity for that space growing up?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the opportunity there, I don't see it as a huge growth opportunity. Instead, I see it just as a professionalization of what's already there. So I have 3 young kids. So if I'm coming to a big city, it would be great to have something other than 2 queens in a hotel room.
Right.
That said, the traditional concept of an Airbnb, it's funny that I now call that a traditional concept, but the traditional concept of an Airbnb, just somebody else's home, that doesn't work when you have a 4-year-old. You need to know that it's a hospitality grade product, that they're not going to go in the drawer and find who knows what in that home. Sure. So there's just a massive need for the professionalization of urban vacation rentals, and that's what you see both those acquisitions as well as Airbnb's investment into Lyric very focused on.
Okay, and what's next for Vacasa? You mentioned trying to do more purpose-built. Is there anything else?
Yeah, the thing we're really excited about right now is real estate. So when we started this business 10 years ago, nobody bought a second home thinking, hey, I'm going to rent this out as a short-term rental. But now, the majority of people buying second homes do intend to rent them, and that's just a huge opportunity. Mm-hmm. So we're really excited about helping people buy second homes, really giving them the data they know. So exactly what cap rate will they get from buying this for buying that? Right now, it's largely an irrational market. People don't know what the return will be. Mm-hmm. So we can bring that data, we can bring our expertise, and really make this something people can invest in.
That's awesome. Well, Eric, thank you so much for taking time to tell us, and we really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.